Here we are in Northwich for another Chappy Meets. I'm going to give you a couple of clues, see if you can guess who it is. He's an ex-Blues captain, considered a bit of a hard man.
Rolls it in, and that's a perfect connection. Morrison plays a 1-2 with Gota. Morrison, terrific drive. Plenty of targets to aim for. Morrison! Deafening sound. Guy Butters must score. He doesn't. He's missed. It's saved by Nicky Weaver, and Manchester City are back in the first division. That is quite an astonishing game.
Chappy. Andy Morrison. You guessed right. How are you? How's your health after your...
Health's not bad, Chappy. Much better now. We're 6 weeks today, post-op.
What was it?
I had a tumour, a very large tumour. It was 12 centimetres by 12, which is about that size. And I'd had a pain in my shoulder for about a year, and then it began to go into my arm and that. And as an ex-footballer, you know yourself, Chappy, you're in pain all the time. Something's aching every day. So I tend to just ignore it. And then in a freak conversation with the doctor, I said, I've got this pain, and he said, oh, we'll get it checked out. So I went and had an x-ray, and they said it was a shadow, but he thought it might have been an infection or pleurisy or something. So went and had a CT scan, and bang, this big tumour stuck right in between.
Were you shocked?
Yeah, I was.
I suppose it's worried at the time before you know what actually the tumour is.
Yeah, exactly. And the initial doctor said to me that they think it's okay, benign, because the edges were very smooth. But he said the problem we're going to have is getting it out. We'll either go through your sternum, I said, or we'll go through your back. The back's a lot more painful, but it doesn't feel so intrusive as actually opening up your chest. So I went for the back. It's come back, the results are good. So all positive, really positive. I was on my back probably for 2 or 3 weeks, which was tough, but the body just won't allow you to do anything. Sometimes you can push through things, but I just couldn't. I'd get up, I'd come down here, have a glass of water, and I had to go straight back and lay down, because I've just felt that ill with the medication, the tablets. But we seem to have got the medication right now, so I'm not taking too much, and the pain seems to have eased off a bit now. So good days and bad days, but.
Born in Inverness, and your first club in football, as in a professional club, was Plymouth Argyle. You couldn't have got any further away. How did that come about? My
dad was in the Marines, which is stationed at Bickley, which is near Plymouth and Exeter in that area, and he met my mum, who's from Plymouth. So I started my first part of life up in the far north. We're 100 miles up from Inverness, right on the tip.
Even further then?
Yeah, and so we moved down. I think it was about 8 when we moved down, and then I, began junior football. I had a couple of years at Southampton in the academy with some good players. Alan Shearer was there at the time. Letizia was there. They had 3 or 4 very good players who went on to have long careers, but I didn't quite have it at that period to be taken on. So joined Plymouth and started on the long road.
And you had 6 years, I think.
6 good years.
And then you had a bit of a few differences with the then manager Peter Shilton, of course, and you left to go to Blackburn Rovers under Kenny Dalglish for about $500,000, I think it was then.
It was, yeah. It was the record money received by Plymouth. It was the wrong decision for me in hindsight.
Blackburn was? Blackburn
was, because of the players, Colin Hendry, Patrick Berger, Henning Berg, David May, Nicky Marker, Ian Pearce, Kevin Moran. We're all centre-halves. Yeah. And when I got there, and I was realised after about a week of training, thinking, what am I doing here? I've got the Scotland captain, I've got England centre-half, I've got the Swedish centre-half. I'm not going to get in here. I've got no chance of getting a game.
Why do you think he signed you then?
I don't know. I think he saw potential. Perhaps I was 21, and perhaps he thought. I think Ray Hartford spoke highly and said, I think in a few years with us, he could be a top centre-half. But I was never going to get in.
How did you eventually end up at City?
Well, I went to Huddersfield, where Huddersfield paid $500,000 again, and was well documented. It was a difficult period in my career, away from football. I didn't live right. I didn't look after myself right, really. But when I played football, I always seemed to get away with it, And you know, and I ended up having a fallout with the manager at Huddersfield.
You know, it was a few things were said that really there was no going back on. You know, I mean, one of us would have to bow down, like, you know, and it was obviously with him being the manager, then I'd have to, you know, move on. Like, I felt what I said was justified at the time. But you know, I mean, that's football. These things happen, you know, and that one door shuts, another one opens, you know, so I had the opportunity to come here.
Joining City must have been an exciting time for you. Of course, you were largely instrumental in the fact that in your first 2 seasons we got 2 promotions.
Yeah, you know, I think, and I think there were so many parts of the jigsaw that came together. There was, first of all, you had good players, you had a good manager, you had a fantastic coach, you know, and
Joe and Willie Donnachie.
Absolutely, you know, and they were the best I've worked with. We had good players. We had nervous players. We had a lot of scared players because of
what surprise were you about?
Well, the way the club had fallen over a couple of seasons.
Yeah.
Players were very nervous. The players that played on the Saturdays were different to the ones that trained in the week, because
confidence factor.
Yeah, 30-odd thousand fans screaming and waiting for things to go wrong, and then, you know, people would hide and you know, but you know, we went on a good run. We had a fantastic run after Christmas where you know, we were filling the ground. I think it was 34,000 every week. It was buoyant. There was excitement, you know, and we went on a really good run, and you know, we just fell short. I think we fell short of Walsall, if I remember rightly. And we went into the playoffs. The highlight was obviously Wembley.
Yeah.
You know, the feeling and around the place, and you know, the expectations, and you know, nobody would say it's a must-win game. You know, that would never, pressure would never put on you. But you knew the financial situation the club were in. You know, the following year, our best players would have been sold. The GOAT would go, Kev, Paul Dickoff, Nicky Weaver, who was the best young keeper around at that time. They would have been gone, and the kids that they were kind of, you know, developing, they would have come in, and you could have been in the wilderness for many years. But you know, we miraculously turned it around. You know, it was incredible. It was, chap. You know, you were there, wasn't it?
Ian Bishop links up again. Chance here for Sean Gota. Tackle comes in. Kevin Horlock has driven that into the back of the net, and I wonder if there will be a late twist here.
The game is not over.
You know, going into extra time, it felt it was all over. They were gone. They were ghosts, you know, because at 2-0 they were already on the beach. They had their bonuses, they had their new contracts, and then you know, to turn it round, it was a staggering. Must have been staggering for them. But yet they picked themselves up the following year and got promoted, which was credit to them.
Comes now for Gota. Can't get his shot in. Dickoff, he scored! Paul Dickoff has scored for Manchester City, and Gillingham can't believe it.
So that day was special.
Amazing.
I wasn't, you know, everybody with champagne was going, the drink was going, and I wasn't drinking, and it was just a very surreal feeling in the change room afterwards. And I was one of the last to leave, and I just felt a fulfilment, you know, that sacrifices made, there was a reward for it.
City, having been 2 goals down with 3 minutes left to play, have come back from the dead, and Gillingham, poor Gillingham.
Roll on, Division 1. City are back.
Tell us about the Paulo Wanchope incident. I can remember it vaguely, but it'd be interesting to listen to it from your perspective.
As a footballer wanting to play football, it's desperate when you have long-term injuries, and we both had them. And there was obviously frictions in the changing room and in the medical room, and Chappy, with his laid-back Latin attitude, would come in when he wanted. You know, so 9 o'clock we start, whatever, 9:20, Paolo would just stroll in, and you know, and we kind of got used to it. But one morning I said to him, "You're late again." I said, "It's not good enough." I said, "You're taking the out of us, like, you know," and he said something in foreign language, so he didn't speak to me, and he said something dismissive, and I just jumped off the board and went and confronted him in the tunnel, and which was just outside the actual medical room, and we come to some blows, and I think actually you grabbed hold of me. So,
well, you said to me, chap, because of his superior height and reach, he was like, he could hit you without you retaliating so much. And then you said to me, Chappy, go and take us in the boot room, unlock the door, because that was such a confined space where you could have got at him and probably killed him.
But as usual, everybody grabbed hold of me, you included. Paolo jumped about 10 feet in the air and came down and hit me on top of the head. And I can remember you saying, don't let him go, because if you let me go, my legs are gone, because there was the little white stars were going, like, and but you know, listen, it happens in every football ground in up and down the country. There are high testosterone level players with emotions running, and it goes, you know, it happens everywhere. But I find it, I mean, I'm not advocating violence in any way, but there was a clearing of the air, and Chappy was. Paolo was never late again.
Wow. Was
never late again for a training session.
He got the message then?
He got there at 5 to 9 from then on. Brilliant. And he mixed in with the lads and all that and become more, and it clears the air sometimes.
Nice fella,
a gentleman, a total gentleman, but you know, these things happen in football.
The lady lounge person had one of our players sent off and one of theirs sent off, and in the end it cost us. You know, it just cost us. It cost us with Andy for a suspension, although the Wimbledon player got off it.
But you also had some issues off the field as well. I know you're totally teetotal now and have been for 14 or 15 years, whatever, but did you ever get in serious trouble, or did they ever curtail what could have been a better career because
I think without a shadow of doubt, professionally, with training and games, I put myself in the top 1% when I trained and when I played. Away from the actual football environment, you know, my behaviour was totally counterproductive to what a footballer would need to be successful. You know, I never, my injuries, you know, I played at Blackpool and twisted my ankle, which was a 6-week injury, and I think the following day we went down to Forest of Arden golfing, and I played 18 holes the following day. I strapped it up and walked around drinking beer all the way around on the Sunday, and then got back in and took the strapping off, and it was the ankle was the size of my head. which is huge.
Absolutely.
and so I was out for 3 months.
Were you a funny drunk, or did you get aggressive?
I was not a very pleasant drunk, to be honest, no. Chappy. You know, and I've spoken about that many times. You know, I had many issues, which I spoke about in my book, openly. And you know, these would come to the fore many times in dark places with drinking me, you know, and produce, you know, moments of extreme violence, which were horrific at times. You know, the things that I did, and I'd had so many warnings throughout my life about you need to do this, you need to get help, whatever. And I'd always seemed to get away with it, but I wasn't getting away with it. You know, I left Blackburn, Blackpool and Huddersfield because of my behaviour. So I wasn't getting away with it, even though I'd ended up at Man City. It
always catches up with you.
I was, you know, and it would have done, and I knew that I had to put the drink down, because I knew that was the crux of so many problems. And I said to Joe, and I made a commitment then, I said, like, you know, I'll sort it out, I know what I need to do. And from that day I haven't drank, and it's over 15 years now.
Very good.
And you know, it's still a day at a time. I still know that the person I was then, if I picked drink up again, he'd be back here in 2 minutes. And you know, life's a lot easier without that.
After City, where and when did you finish actually playing?
I finished City was my last game. I played.
You had a few loan spells, didn't you?
I played on loan at Sheffield United, where I did my knee, and it was a strange time that, because Joe had been sacked. Kevin Keegan was coming in. I was told that I'd be, if we stayed in the Premier League, I was probably surplus to requirements. If we were relegated into the Championship, then maybe Andy's a player that we'll need. So there was no commitment on a contract or anything. We had to wait to see where we were. Then obviously Joe was sacked and Kevin came in. Kevin said, if you prove your fitness and get right, there'll be a contract for you in the Championship. I never got back. I went to Crewe to see the specialist, and he just said, look, he said, there's nothing we can do. He said, I can't drill your knee anymore. He said, I can't.
Your knee was the problem?
Yeah, the knee was shattered, and I ended up having 13 operations on my left knee. I was very brave about it at the time. Oh well, you know, that's my career over, now another chapter, you know, now I'll start in whatever, and I wasn't ready for it. I was absolutely stunned for months. and depression came in, and I couldn't even get myself out of bed in the morning for months afterwards, like, you know, and I wasn't prepared for what real life was in any way. I'd always had a direction or whatever, or some discipline where you train, you work, this is when you're pre-season, you start then, we train then, whatever. I had nothing, I had no tools to deal with when your football career is taken away from you. Mine at 31, it's so difficult, and you know, and I never had the riches that that footballers now. So, you know, I had to go out and try and find a way of, you know, keeping a roof over your head.
So what actually are you doing now, and what is your involvement with the, I know you're fan ambassador now.
Yep.
What does that entail every
I go to supporters branches.
Yeah.
I go to home matches if I'm not working with Airbus, and the club are fantastic about that. They, you know, I want to begin my pro licence this summer. And to do that, I have to have a facility to coach and manage, which I do at Airbus. So the club were fantastic with that. They said, you know, if you've got a game, then let that be your priority. I go to the games, I meet and greet, I go to the boxes, I interact with the fans, and you know, if there's any functions that are needed for me to go to, I'll go to anywhere, wherever in the country if I'm needed, you know, and I'm really enjoying it, Chap. It's great to be back part of the family again. And it's funny how football works, Chappy, you know, without that actually you pointing that out to them, that we'll get Andy in, like, you know, and taking that chance, you know, I wouldn't have got across, you know, I wouldn't have played for Manchester City, I wouldn't have experienced those promotions, and most certainly I wouldn't be there now in the role I am now, you know. So
well, much to my relief, it worked anyway. Thank
exactly.
goodness, so.
Yeah. So it was great, Chap, you know, and you know, I thanked you many times for it, for giving me the opportunity. But what I will say, Chappy, is there's hundreds of footballers who've had the opportunity over the years to be a success at football clubs, you know, and I made sure I made it work, you know, I made it happen, you know, and you know, very fortunate really to be given the chance. But you know, I took it when it came.